Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with my partner, Dr. Eric Lopkin. And Dr. Lopkin, I will let you kick it off. We don't like to beat the same drum, but in this case, we have no choice with the impeachment scenario, fiasco. Before you say anything, is it scenario or fiasco?
I think either one of those works. It's reached the point where it is absolutely ludicrous. The Democrats.
The charges are comical. I mean, contempt of obstruction of Congress, which whatever every president does, so you can impeach anyone. And what was the first offense?
The first one is abuse of power, which is so vague that
you could say if you could get arrested for abuse of power, then anyone. I mean, it's actually, we can laugh, but it's a little scary. The Democrats, it's kind of scary. Abuse of power.
What struck me about all of this was the actual statements that were made during the announcement. Because it started off, Gerald Nadler, chairman of the Judicial Committee, essentially said, he came out and said, we have to do this because Trump used foreign interference in 2016, and we need to, keep this from happening again. Now, the Mueller investigation exonerated Trump of that charge. Trump did not use foreign interference in 2016. Their own investigation proved this, yet they're still beating that drum, trying to fool the American people.
Are they fooling the American people?
They're really not, because as all of this was going on, Rasmussen came up with their latest poll, giving Trump a 52% approval rating.
God, that's the highest he's ever had.
Yep.
He's never broken over 50. Maybe the first day. Do you agree with that or not? It's true.
I think he's been around 52 before, but it's certainly at its highest average. Then after Nadler blatantly lied to the American people about 2016, Adam Schiff comes up and states that the reason that they have to hurry and do this is because the courts will take too long. And if they don't do it now, he can cheat again in 2020. And
what courts will take too long? The Senate?
The federal courts. The Democrats brought forth a case in the court system to force some of the evidence and witnesses that said they would not testify to do so. A lower court ruling ruled in the Democrats' favor. It's, of course, being appealed. And the fact of the matter is, if it goes to the Supreme Court, the odds are the Democrats will lose, which is why they don't want to wait for the courts. But the other thing is, he's essentially saying we can't win in 2020 unless we impeach him.
Oh, no, this is...
So they're already making excuses.
Yeah, this is dangerous. I believe for far left ideologues, this is great, but they were never going to vote for. I think the undecided, the uncommitted voter, they're going to start losing, and that's what tips elections. Let me run by something that I thought was interesting, commentary that Britt Hume said, who I really like. When this week, ABC This Week, when they used to be actually a really good, pretty much unbiased Sunday news event, when he was on that in the 80s and the 90s, he was awesome. But anyway, getting right to the point. He did have a comment that says he does not know the effect that impeachment will have on Trump. He thinks it might hurt him. And he cited this, and I'd like your comment on his analysis. And that is, that everyone talks about how Clinton rode off into the sunset with 75% approval rating after the failed impeachment attempt. But what Berhume mentioned, which I thought was a good point, was that he had the press on his side. The press was talking about how it was just a indiscretion. It was a personal matter, even though he did commit perjury, whatever, so on and so forth. But Berhume said that that Trump will not have that. He will have a drumbeat of the opposite. So it may have a negative impact on him. Your analysis of that, your thoughts.
He makes a good point. I mean, Clinton always had the press in his pocket, where Trump has never had the press on his side.
No.
However, the Trump voter generally has a distrust of the press to begin with. That's why most of the polls.
How about independents, uncommitted?
I don't actually know that there are that many independents anymore. I think at this point, people have pretty much made up their mind. Are they going to back Trump, or are they going to, try to impeach him? This is basically the split. Now, what I found interesting is there was an article yesterday in Politico that talks about a group of moderate Democrat representatives who are trying to stop the impeachment and instead convince their fellow Congress people to censure Trump.
Which would have been politically an exceptionally great move. Stained. In fact, I thought back 21 years ago that the Republicans should have done that. They went a bridge too far. I think the Republicans would have been great 21 years ago to do that, strategic. And I think it would be very strategic for the Democrats to do the same. But obviously, with the new radical Democratic Party, that's impossible, correct?
Yeah, that's the problem, is that the radical left is pulling the train on this one. However, what I find really interesting about it is that where Pelosi, Nadler, and Schiff are banging the drum that we have evidence. In fact, Nadler said point blank, if they produced this evidence in a court of law, he would be found guilty. Now, we all know that's not true, because all of the evidence they've presented so far is hearsay. It would actually be thrown out of a court of law.
Yes.
But if these moderates are trying to stop the impeachment train, it means that the evidence that Nadler and Schiff have produced hasn't even convinced all of the Democrats.
Now, while you're saying that, how many of, let's say there's 35 vulnerable Democrats in Trump districts, how many do you think might actually vote against it? I have my own figure. What do you think?
Honestly, I don't think any of them will come out against it unless they can manage to get a group. I don't think any of them will stand alone against the Democratic.
I think maybe two or three, which is whatever, Maybe. But I would say one thing. By the way, Larson, our Connecticut congressman, was on the podium, which was bizarre. Yes. But anyway, he's never really initiated a bill in his entire tenure, but yet he's always on these photo ops. But that's another issue.
Well, that's what the Connecticut delegation is good at, photo ops.
That's pretty much it. Yes, as Connecticut, goes down the spiral. Yeah, I think it's going to go right down party lines, which will be detrimental. What do you think? It gets rid of the whole Nancy Pelosi bipartisanship stuff.
I'm pretty sure it is going to go down party lines. And that bodes very poorly for the Democrats, because I think the Senate is going to go down party lines as well, which means the Democrats can't win this.
Oh, no, that's a given, unless something you may have. How about Romney? You think he might? I don't even think he would do it.
I think there's two possibilities of Republicans who may switch. Collins from Maine and Romney.
That's it.
But everybody else has already said steadfast they're not breaking ranks.
How about Lindsey Graham? I was listening to a satellite broadcast. It was for some good insights. Two options. What do you think is better for Trump? Option number one is Lindsey Graham actually saying he's going to throw vote to throw the whole thing out, not even go to a trial, or actually having an extended trial when you have to have Nadler, Schiff, and the whistleblower in the public eye.
Well, at this
What do you
point,
think is better for Trump?
I honestly think it's probably better to go to trial, because if they vote to just throw it out, the Democrats can go, oh, well, his cronies in the Senate are protecting him and they don't want him to face justice, and they can be all outraged. If it goes to a trial, then all of the witnesses that Nadler and Schiff refused to call will be called. On top of that, there's been chatter that Giuliani actually found some damaging things that the Ukraine was investigating about Biden and Hunter Biden, and so they're going to be able to present that, going, yes, we were uncovering corruption in the previous administration.
If that happens, it's game over. I think a trial, and I have to say this, diverging a bit, is Adam Schiff really looks, and I know I'm more partisan. He looks like he's not quite all on board, like all the oars are in the water.
Well, it's
he's like
really
possessed. He's like a madman.
Well, I think he's power hungry at this point. He's never had this much power before. I don't think.
True. He was a nondescript congressperson, and now he's the Elvis of the Democratic Party.
But I find it interesting. There is a meme going around social media now. They took a photo from the announcement of the impeachment, and over the heads of each of the people up on the podium, they put the state that they represent, and it's California, New York, Connecticut, California, California, New York, New York. And at the bottom of the meme, it simply says, "This is why we have an electoral college."
Oh God, yeah, yes. It will be interesting. I was on the fence. I think this might actually help Trump. They said his rally last night, I know it's a rally, I get it, never has been more energized. I think if it goes to trial,
every time they do this, they energize his base more.
Okay, and I do agree. I do believe or agree with what your other assessment was. I believe if it does go to a senatorial trial, I think that hurts. That might be the death knell in the whole process for the Democrats.
Yeah, because everything that they've been doing is going to come out. And
it's all going to come to light. Yes.
And what's really funny is that they keep banging the drum about Trump using foreign interference in 2016 when their own investigation proved that not to be true. So they're not going to have that to fall back on when all of the witnesses come out.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And I guess in closing, I think that I think it will be interesting. I also think that I think they're more concerned and know they have to rough up Trump and stain him because it's just obvious. We've talked about it before. There's no one, including Biden, because he's like a cockroach. I don't mean that, literally or metaphysically.
Yeah, every time he opens his mouth, it gets worse for him.
Anytime there's any light on him, he scurries because it's just awful, like the leg thing and the popcorn, and he's got a macho. It's just he's not all there. That's really true. I mean, there's people that are 80 who are brilliant. He's not one of them.
Right. And this is
Age
why
has not done him well.
This is why I think they trotted out USMCA, because now the Democrats have to prove, well, wait a minute, we're not just about impeachment. Look, we're helping the American worker because they need to get the unions back on their side.
There's no question. Not even that. They also want to toss some shade over the whole thing as well. Don't you agree?
Oh, of course. And that was another. Pelosi came out